You have that in your box?
Yes.
You have that in your box in the auditor's office?
So,
I hadn't looked in there yet.
Doesn't seem to be. Somebody just wanted to speak today. Maybe that's who he's calling. I don't know. Who did you call, Judge?
what's that?
Who did you call? Oh, it's-
Mary Ann Easel.
Okay, yeah, I got the same sheet here. I was curious.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Marianne Ezel.
Is not available. At
Gotta do it 3 times.
Thereby qualifying for 20.4 of 21.4 CPE credits, which are registered with the board, Texas State Board of Public Accountancy. Okay, Criminal Justice Information Center's Security Awareness Training, CJIS Online Security Awareness Certification, Peak Performance Solution. This certifies that Genevieve Martinez has successfully completed Level 3 Security Awareness Certification, 6/8/2021, expiration date 6/8/2023. Okay. Certificate of Completion, okay, Sarah Kennedy, Nancy Hosek, Amanda Bravo, Gabrielle Lundrum, Christina Moots, Gloria Bailey, Haley Robbie, have successfully completed tax cybersecurity awareness training in 2021, certified on this different days of the month, but they were all done in June. So, okay. Is there any more? Eva? You know what?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. And next, agenda item number 5, the extension activity reports, the handouts that we've got here. I guess Nicole is still on maternity leave? What's that? Oh, okay. I was just curious because I don't see her report here.
Do we know about the extension office truck that was in the wreck? Is the insurance?
Yes, so we got payment for the repairs, and she took it to Johnny's, and it came back a little bit higher, so we resent it to TAC to see if they would give it. It was like an $800 difference, but it is in the process.
Have they repaired it, or are they in the process of
I
repairing?
think they're in the process.
Okay.
I think Johnny's waiting on whether or not we give them the okay pending, but I told them to go ahead and do it, and we didn't get the additional money. But it was like $11,000 worth.
Any questions or comments? Activity reports? Okay. So now we're moving to agenda item number 6, Richard O. Jackson County Judge, Jim Stewart County Sheriff. Discuss possible change of jail's medical service to ESD number 3. Sheriff?
I got the floor?
You got the floor.
I was hoping this morning that I'd actually be able to bring you some numbers, but after talking to ESD3, late last week, they had a little issue over liability insurance part of it, and until they get that squared away, they can't verify numbers. But what I was looking at doing was, our contract is coming up for the medical services for the jail. It is currently, they are supplying 8-hour-a-day service, Monday through, Sunday through Saturday. So 7 days a week, for somewhere in ballpark $18,000 a month. ESD3 is looking at supplying me 20 to 24-hour-a-day service, 7 days a week, with 2 nurses during the week and then an EMT or paramedic, which would also function as a dispatcher after 5 o'clock or during the day, whichever, but on weekends, and which would benefit both the jail and us, because right now after 5 o'clock, we either call EMS to come check somebody, or we have to bring a deputy or lose a jailer to transport and sit at the hospital for anything after 5 o'clock. Well, this will give us service that we would actually be able to keep that employee in-house, have that person checked and verified or administered medicines after hours. And what I was thinking about doing is looking at that and weighing pros and cons and see if it's viable for us to look at doing this. Plus, it would keep the county taxpayers' money in the county, because right now we're paying for a company that doesn't, while they have offices in Texas, they don't, their business is out of state. And I'd like to try to recoup some of that money and keep it here.
You know, when we went to those people, Commissioner File and I, well, I guess everybody was involved, but we were involved pretty deeply, and that was when we were in danger of losing our federal prisoners, and the hospital couldn't make it work, and these people seemed to have the answer. What you're saying actually happened was a concern in general that I had at that point, but at least that satisfied the state and we got to go forward. Personally, I'm with you on this. If we can get better coverage and keep the money within the county, we're a lot better off than having those folks and the money going to, you know, some foreign place like New York or some other foreign country.
And I did put this out also to the hospital again, just so y'all know. I gave him a copy of the contract, and I have not heard back from the hospital, so I don't guess they're really interested in trying to supply it.
But
Because
now,
I did try to
wasn't
get
the
that.
big issue when we were doing all this was who could meet the jail standards?
And that was a question that I had. Is paramedic,
Yes,
they're considered a nurse?
yes.
Okay, that's
Actually, EMT will suffice.
an EMT?
Yes. An EMT would actually suffice their requirements. But right now, we'd be giving them more than what they're getting anyway, because if they're gonna, ESD3 is planning on hiring 2 nurses, 2 staff from 8 to 5, and then covered 5 till, he worked it both ways for me, 20 hours a day and 24 hours a day. Because after 2 o'clock in the morning, it gets pretty quiet. So it may or may not be necessary to go 24/7. But I also looking at this as an opportunity, because our dispatch is getting busier, and fire EMS, as the ESDs get more professional, more proficient, they're requiring things that the normal dispatcher doesn't have knowledge of, that this would actually benefit us in there also in assisting fire and EMS. And my deal is, since they're all ESDs, I intend to approach them for any difference in cost and try to alleviate some of that through the services we're providing to them this way also.
Kathy, I have a question. This contract with Southern Health Partners exceeds, it's over $200,000. Isn't this something that we would have to go out for competitive bid process, through the competitive bid process.
I think we attempted to do that.
I believe it was right when I came on board, when that process went through Dredge. You probably were here when that happened. But we would have, the reason I bring that up is if we're going to go out for the bid process, the contract with Southern Health, I believe, expires at the end of June. We're like June 30th, if I'm not mistaken. That means we need to get on the ball with getting it posted in the paper, all of the specs and all that now, and I'm not even sure if it's too late, because June 30th is around the corner.
Can I say something, Brenda?
Uh-huh.
The contract has a 60-day cancellation, so actually we got to September.
So we wouldn't have to renew it in June.
We can renew it now, but we have 60 days from July 1 to cancel.
Okay, now,
So we have time to go through that process
Oh.
and still be able to cancel the contract, but we're keeping our medical for the
now,
60
the
days.
bidding process, okay, I don't know if that, when it comes to professionals, like architects, healthcare professionals, I don't know if that applies.
Well, I'll look at it again, but I think we did last time, didn't we?
But I know, like, if we went out for architects, we don't have to bid it.
Right.
We,
You're right about that.
and I'm thinking healthcare is the same way.
Let me
If you
double
don't mind
check.
checking.
No, of course not.
And that, what we really just needs numbers.
Has the company that's working now, have they indicated that they want to renew?
Oh, they're
They
more
sent-
than happy to renew.
Yeah, they sent the
But-
renewal number with an increase, a dollar amount increase, which I
I have
forwarded.
not seen the increase.
Yeah, I
was going
forwarded
off
it.
of Last year's.
No, I forwarded it to you a couple of months ago, but I can resend it though, stating that it's coming up for renewal. And what happens is it automatically renews if we don't tell them otherwise. So,
Well, and I think one thing we would have to look at is when we went with this company, this commercial firm, many of the reasons were that they were a professional provider of medical services, and they were gonna do what they were supposed to do, and y'all weren't gonna get a call on Friday afternoon saying there's no nurse there tonight, And so, not that EDS won't be fine, but I think there needs to kind of be a comparison of what the issues were.
It's like the sheriff said, after 5 o'clock, we don't have one, then we have to transport them to the hospital or do whatever.
But they're on call, aren't they? Isn't the nurse on call?
They were supposed to be.
They answer the phone, but they do not come.
There's a 1-800 number that
You can call them, but they do not come to the jail. So that after hours, they call them, give them a status report. Basically, what they're gonna get told is, take them to the ER or call EMS to come look at
See,
them,
and
which is what we're doing right now anyway.
to-
And to me, every time we do that, I am taking a person from the jail, which we are paying them an hourly salary, to go sit at the deal. So if you look at lost deal from us being out of there, or me pulling the unit off the road to come in here after hours, to me, there's gotta be an offset there that we can actually benefit from having that person there. And if they just got a headache or whatever, they can be handled right there. ESD3's current physician that controls them is on board with this. The big deal they have right now is, does it affect their insurance coverage? And that's something that came up just the other day. We didn't think it was an issue. And that's what they're trying to figure out is, for the ESD, is this gonna, are they gonna have to cost, is it gonna cost them a lot more to change their insurance?
Absolutely, it's gonna cost more.
Well,
And,
the
and to
issue
get
you're
what
talking,
direction.
the issue you're talking about after 5 o'clock is the issue that these people were supposed to solve. Because that was the problem we were having before, is that at 5 o'clock, whoever we had as a nurse was gone, and then we ended up having the people who were administering the medication after that were not qualified to do it. That's my recollection.
Correct.
That was one of the,
And,
Well, and that's probably why what we're doing is we ain't administering. If they tell us they need medication, they're going to the hospital.
yeah, well, then, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not an attorney, obviously, they violated their agreement because that was what they were supposed to supply.
We aren't getting after 5 o'clock
Yeah.
nursing. We get 5 o'clock, 8 to 5, Monday through Sunday.
The issue at hand was that the corrections officers could not be handing out morning and night meds to inmates.
Right.
They did satisfy that, as far as I was aware, because they do the morning meds, and before the nurse leaves at 5 o'clock, the afternoon meds are handed out.
Right.
The question that I have is, how will the ESD how will the ESD be able to provide the psychiatric doctor that's needed 24/7?
I do not know, but I gave that contract to the ESD, so they're aware of all the issues.
That's a good question.
Before we have the next meeting, I'll make sure they're here to answer that question, or I have an answer to that question.
And then
We could have
again,
had coverage around the clock, but it was gonna cost us more. And we chose to go this route.
Yep.
I mean, I know they,
Well, it was too expensive
yeah,
otherwise.
and then the other really big deal was whether or not it satisfied the state jail standards and the federal jail standards for, when we were getting the federal prisoners.
but we're still getting federal prisoners.
So
Yeah,
maybe
we-
ESD3 could comment on that too. That would not likely be something they're real familiar with, but they might be willing to get familiar.
and if I recall, didn't this contract, weren't they supposed to provide certain amount of drugs also?
Within-
They do, like because, yeah, we don't pay for those type of,
And is
Non-psychiatric
ESD3 willing to
drugs.
do that? I mean, that's another thing.
Like I said, I gave him the contract. I wanted something compatible, service-wise.
do I have my numbers?
You have the new numbers for Southern Health Partners?
In my email,
Oh,
I would have to go get it.
okay. So actually, I'd like to see what the new numbers are with them. If we don't do anything, we're gonna stay like we are. But then again, like the 60-day, notice of termination, and if we did anything else.
Well,
So is it 60 days with the same fees, or is it like a month-to-month increase because we haven't renewed the contract?
No, the contract will automatically renew. We have 60 days to forfeit the contract.
Right, within
But
those 60
we're
days.
paying them monthly right now, aren't we
Is it
not?
the same monthly fee?
Yeah,
The way-
it's a
the way I
standard,
remember
it's a
it, we're
standard
paying a monthly fee.
monthly fee to be
Around
increased
17 to
at the,
18,000.
at the new term of the contract. And very rarely will we get an invoice, but we have before in the past, if there are additional services outside of the specified hours in the contract. Like if they have to come and provide additional hours. That's very rare.
60 days will come really, really quickly.
I don't really know, I don't know what the sheriff is, I would have to read through it or give it to Kathy to look at, because I don't know what the 60-day opt-out verbiage is.
I don't either.
Judge, would you like me to go print that and bring it, and then we come back, or?
Well, actually, as far as that, the agenda item says that we're gonna talk about the ESD3. I guess that could be considered part of that. We're gonna discuss what we're gonna do with Southern Health Partners.
Plug, oh, I see what you're saying.
I think it
Well,
would.
this
It
doesn't
would.
call for action.
Well, you're not,
Does it?
you didn't show any action on this. today.
Yeah, there's no
You showed
action on
discuss,
this.
Correct?
It just
Yes,
says
it just says
discuss.
discuss.
So, I mean, we could try to bring both of those to the table next time if you so wish.
Let's do that.
The ESD
If we can get a number, if we can get numbers from ESD3 plus what we've got. And if you don't mind looking into that competitive bid deal on whether we have to on healthcare
Oh, yes,
And-
I will.
and also on healthcare services. Not, Okay, so we have discussed, and I guess we can just put it on the agenda for next time. And add Southern Healthcare.
And has ESD already given you a draft contract to look at?
No, they were gonna send me one till they got the insurance deal, and they said, I ain't sending you something that may not be accurate, so they held it.
Okay,
Because I intended to bring it for everybody today,
Okay.
but they held it on.
Just another, while we're on that, I mean, because I know ESD has approached, ESD3 has approached ESD2 to do their EMS service. I wonder if they're branching out. Sounds like it.
They already cover about 60% of the population.
Yeah.
Why not cover the rest?
Why not cover the whole thing?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, anybody else have anything else to discuss on that? We're gonna move on to agenda item number 7, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Olga Marrero, Elections Administrator. Discuss and take action on approving the polling locations for the November 2nd, 2021 constitutional amendment election. Olga, you have anything other than, here they are?
So pretty much we are going to just have two locations for November, election. So we are combining boxes, and pretty much everybody has already, approved for us to use them. It's just, if you're okay with that.
Did y'all vote on it at church, Paul?
I guess the board did, I don't know. I'm sure they do.
We did call them, so she said it was okay.
Does this have the Eagle Creek people going to Lavernia? So that has, I'm just trying to think this thing through, so that means that my folks on 181, beginning at Abrigo Lake to Eagle Creek, are gonna have to make the trek over to Lavernia? That
They're
seems,
gonna have to go to ESD2 up there on Cimarron Drive.
no,
416? At the very top.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that one. All right, that's cool. Past
Make
that,
a
I'm good
motion
with
to
it.
approve the polling locations for the November 2nd, 2021 constitutional amendment election as presented by the Elections Administrator.
Motion by Commissioner Martin. Second. Second by Commissioner Perdola. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we have them approved. Thank you, Olga.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8. Paul Fowle, Commissioner Precinct 2, discuss and ratify committee to manage CSLRF program and provide recommendations to the court.
Judge, what this is, I got several calls and I just kind of feel like that, the reason I put this on here was to see if the court wanted to add some people from the local city, from each city of the county. Poe, Stockdale, Lavernia, and Floresville, members to the committee, just to, as a outside view of what's going on outside of the public, is my objective on this.
Okay.
could you say that one more time?
I mean, what I was wanting to do is add some members to the committee and basically from each city from the county, Stockdale, Poth, Lavernia, and Stockdale. Just add, that way we got some public input on the committee itself.
How many people are currently on the committee?
Voting members?
Excluding Michelle and I, 5.
And remind me again what the purpose of the committee is.
To make recommendations to Commissioners Court. Oh, go ahead,
The
Michelle.
committee was appointed last court to determine necessarily projects to fund from the American Rescue Plan, the last stimulus. Since we received the 9.9 million, I should say not received, allocated the 9.9 million, the committee was formed to basically come up with those projects and then solicit public input within the duration of the performance period, to move those projects forward after you all have approved them.
How much money is it?
In total, allocated to Wilson County, $9.9 million.
And the way we came up with the committee that you all approved at the last court was identifying the different areas that are considered approved eligible expenses in the American Rescue Plan. And then we pulled what we considered expertise in each of those areas. So for example, emergency management operations, Leanne was asked to serve on the committee so she could speak to what that means. IT infrastructure, that we asked John Holcomb, and that's how we went down the line there, and then added two commissioners to be, or one commissioner to be included on it, and the judge asked to be on it as well.
Well, is everybody on the committee got a dog in the fight, so to speak?
I mean, they're a representative of county business. And so the idea was, we had our first committee meeting Friday. The idea was, with whatever projects the committee deemed appropriate to send back to you all to approve, if necessary, we would reach out to the mayors and the city councils of the other towns and communities and any other nonprofit organizations to get their feedback before the court was going to approve it. So that was what was discussed.
Like if we
Like,
do,
With John's department, does he have a likelihood of getting some funding?
We
We're
haven't
still,
made that
yeah,
decision yet.
we're still, I mean, that was the first meeting, so we're still very much in.
Well, in his case, it's not so much his department as the big item that's, the global issue is broadband connectivity. So he knows the most about it. And so there would be some research into what does that take to do that? How would you accomplish it?
And just by that, that would be a default that you would probably have to reach out to some of these communities as well as the unincorporated areas. in the county.
I would think that would be important. You don't
Right.
want at the end half the committee to be getting
Right.
the money. because
Okay,
then
and-
there's an appearance of unfairness.
Well, the idea is to serve the citizens and residents of Wilson County. It's not to serve each and every little department. It's to serve the citizens and residents of Wilson County in the
And-
best way possible.
How was it,
Excuse me a
Related to
second.
the pandemic.
As we discussed the other day in the committee meeting, if we went to, if we're gonna do like we did before with the CARES Act money, grant out something to small businesses, to nonprofit organizations, then we would form subcommittees. And then those subcommittees would include people from the county.
And others.
So the money can go to the county or to other organizations. Wow,
As it
that's tough.
relates to the pandemic.
That's tough.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
I were on the committee, I'd vote for the county.
It will be, it
It
will, I mean, the reason why they designed it to be a longer process in the CARES Act was because of the amount of money and the fact that public input is needed. It is not required, I will say that, it is not required by the law, but they do encourage it.
Judge Kennedy wanted to say something.
Thank you, Judge Jackson. I would like to support Paul Files' suggestion, and I agree with what Catherine Chapman just said. She said kind of quietly, I don't know if you heard, but I was on that committee, I'd vote for the county, absolutely. And I have received calls as well from people in the community saying, well, why are there only elected officials and 2 employees for the county on this committee? Why are there not more community members on this committee? Because they're concerned. I mean, you guys get to hold the purse strings of all the county money from the taxes and so forth. You guys hold the purse strings. And if you have one commissioner and county judge on this committee, they actually get to vote twice on every single issue that comes up.
Excuse me, the money will not be distributed unless the Commissioner's Court approves it. That's where it's gonna come from.
Right, right. I mean, you guys hold the purse strings of that account as well. And I believe last time, was it true that y'all opened a brand new
to that, Judge Kennedy, also, is that that's why we are placed in this position, especially my position as county auditor, to ensure that the monies are being spent in the manner that best benefits the county and not individual departments. And I think when you talk about people from the outside, that's where people like Michelle and I serve as being unbiased in no matter what, to make sure that things are being done accurately, fairly, across the board. I'm not opposed to what Commissioner File is recommending, but I do want to speak to that because that is making it sound as if nobody on the committee is worthy enough to make the decisions on what's in the best interest of the county. I know, but, yeah.
My apologies, not at all.
Yeah.
Their main concern was every on the committee gets a paycheck from who?
I'm sorry?
Every single person on that committee right now receives a paycheck from who?
Because that's what we're charged to do. We're charged
So
to,
that's what I'm talking, my
I can say something about, I know what it took to get to where I am. The people in Wilson County voted for everybody at this table, to represent them.
Absolutely, I agree.
I'm not saying outside input is not wanted, and we have avenues of getting the outside input.
I will say when we did the Wilson County CARES Act grant, we did have outside members of the community on the committee. I will tell you that Michelle and I did probably 90 to 95% of the legwork. And when you start getting more and more people from the outside, these are business people who have jobs, that run businesses, et cetera. They don't have the time allocated and needed to really dive into all the minute details. And this is magnified like 10 times compared to what that one was. And that was one of the issues that I brought up at Friday's meeting about the amount of work that it's going to take. So whatever way the court decides, just to ensure that everybody knows that this is a hard-working, active committee that is going to be spending a lot of time.
What do the rules say? Did they send you rules that say how the committee's supposed to be selected?
No.
The interim final rule is still out for public comment. There were no specific rules other than encouraging, that a committee be formed and that public input be solicited. And they did not delineate or prescribe any methods or madness to those,
Have y'all thought about how y'all gonna get the public input? I mean, how does y'all go?
Yes.
If y'all decide on a certain project or a certain thing, how are you gonna get the public?
yeah, we actually had a lengthy conversation Friday.
I would call it more of an argument, but yeah, and that was a big focus of our discussion Friday was how do we solicit input? What ways can we reach everybody? Do we do a mailer? I mean, we're looking at setting up a website, kind of presenting a preliminary survey to find out what the community interest is. I think one of the challenges that we have is I think there's a perception that this money can be spent on anything, and it can't. So putting something on there that explains what that money can be used for. Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of folks that say, hey, why didn't you do it for this? Because the law says we can only spend it on A, B, C, D, E, and F. We can't spend it on anything else. And it also, everything that we do has to have sort of that coronavirus twist to it in being able to respond in the future to similar type issues. So it's a very, the waters are still pretty muddy right now because we don't have the final rule. So what we're doing right now is looking at how we can present that information to the public, how can we solicit input from the public, and then the concept again is that if, just for example, if a JP's office was an eligible thing, well then we would ask the JP's, how do you do that? Or if it's a agricultural thing, then we would ask the AgriLife people to come in and support us. And so there'll be, at least 2 layers. And so back to the broadband thing. So, school's got some money. So how do we work with them to maximize those dollars? So that what might be a deal where we bring all the schools together and we talk about broadband and how do we do that? What were their challenges during the pandemic? If we have to go back to this, what were your failures? You know, because I can tell you, my 2 granddaughters had hotspots and they didn't always work. How do we alleviate that problem? And they know where those people are, or they can get the data. You know, so there's going to be an opportunity there for all of us to work together. You know, the cities have their own money. But again, depending on the city, depends on how much broadband they have or what services they have.
And also keeping in mind that, you know, we have to take little chunks out of this huge elephant, and we haven't even, we are just now hitting the ground running on even talking about how to even start. So some of these projects are 4-year projects in the making that could potentially take time to plan out. So I know that some of the concern what I've heard is kind of like what Judge Kennedy is saying is, you know, well, how's money going to be spent? And y'all are the ones making the decision. Well, there are no decisions being made, and the decisions probably won't be made by the court for some time, because it's good. In order to do this and do it right, we have to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row for every specific project that the court may approve that we use this money for. And that's going to take some time. The public is not, they're not going to have the answers that they're looking for, especially not right now, not next week, not even in 2 weeks, because it's a lengthy process, and that's where Michelle and I are charged to ensure that it gets done right.
It seems to me that there's a certain level of expertise that is required for all of these areas. If you could find a citizen that had that level of expertise to represent, so to speak, all of the citizens, that would be fine. But to put a Larry Wiley on the committee as a citizen and not have knowledge in emergency management or in broadband or whatever the other areas are, doesn't do the county any good at all. I don't know how you communicate. What I'm seeing, what I think I'm hearing is that we've got this group right now that are analyzing the different areas that the money that can be spent. And from that, there'll be potential projects that'll fall out of that. And then either the initial committee will be broadened for that, or there might be, and of course, Commissioner's Court, as a committee looking at it, ultimately, we're going to be the ones that are going to look at it and say, yes, you know, this is right, or I'm going to say, you know, I don't think this benefits precinct 4 enough, and something needs to be done, and therefore you won't get my vote. But to put Larry Wiley, I use myself, as a citizen, not an elected official, on the board, and not having knowledge of this isn't going to help anybody. But there's a point to where it needs to be spread, and there's a point where I think there should be representation from, you know, I use Stockdale as a city, but I probably have more people that have, when I look at a whole of my precinct, I probably have more Lavernia and Floresville citizens than I have people that have the 78160 Stockdale. And so, and mine is kind of a hodgepodge. I represent a big group based on where my precinct is. If you could find the right citizen, I think it would make sense. I don't know how you find that citizen.
One thing I don't want to happen or have to deal with later on is if we spent the money on something we shouldn't have spent the money on, then we're going to have to replace that money, and that money's gone. I
No.
want to be real careful that when we do spend the money, that it's of something that's going to be approved.
Through the guidelines of the
Yes.
program.
Well,
And they're still working on that. We haven't got the,
right.
And
And,
then our
and back to
outside
Michelle's
auditor will
point
come out.
and what Brenda just said, I mean, the final rule probably won't be available till sometime in August, at the earliest, if they don't extend it. So, you know, right now, we're not looking at what projects we're doing. We're looking at how do we make this work? And so, and it's possible that we may see, when we get a little further down the road, that we need some more people. I don't know. So I would like to ask for the opportunity to let us
Based on
work.
Friday, we probably don't need any more right now.
Is there a description, do they give you a description of the,
No.
it just says you should appoint a committee, period.
Just, and even at that, it's recommended, it's not even required.
It's not required.
There are some counties that are, I was sharing this with the group on Friday, there are some counties who the auditor is the sole person that decides yay or nay, brings it to commissioner's court and says this is what, there are some counties that aren't even. No, it does not. And then there are some counties that are not even accepting the money because they don't want to deal with it I mean, it's all over the gamut. 254 counties, 254 different ways of doing it.
There's one county that's using it to build a jail.
Well, and
Or says they're going to, we'll see how that.
Says they're gonna use it to build a jail, yes.
But now we don't have to send back where we say the money's going and have them approve it, do we?
Well,
After the fact, yeah.
we do have reporting requirements, that we do have, and we do have an interim report as a direct recipient, and then we do have quarterly expenditure and project reports. So, and those, the first interim report will be due, I believe it's August 31st this year, and the first quarterly project and expenditure reports will be due October 31st of this year, which will cover the first quarters as of when
And this
the
is to
money
help
was allocated.
people or organizations or citizens who lost funds.
There's a number of eligible uses. One of them is revenue loss recovery.
And that's kind of like everybody lost.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And that's definitely something that the committee is considering. One of the things that I'll go ahead and share it, one of the things that I identified that was different from Commissioner's Court last month was the non-entitled units, which includes Floresville, Poth, Stockdale, and Lavernia. They don't get to go through the Department of Treasury to apply for the funds. They have to go through the state. And currently, from the last time I spoke with the city of Floresville's representative, they've got no direction on what that state portal or state application process is going to look like. And so that is something that I mentioned to the committee. This is something that, their funds may be a little bit delayed, even more so than ours. We might want to consider that as the committee to recommend to you all to this Commissioner's Court. So as the literature and the rules develop, then I will take that back to the committee, and then the committee will bring recommendations and thoughts for you all to consider.
And any citizen can give the committee information saying, so-and-so.
Once we develop or decide how we're going to get the word out and get public input, then yes, that would be available to them.
so the process, I'm just trying to put it through my little brain. Process is that you have all these potential areas that you could go to. And so you've named emergency management and broadband as two. So you're going to take all of those areas and analyze them, so to speak, and take that to a subgroup that more potentially applies to the county. Is that kind of it? And then from there, where do we go?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we'll have to do, for example, is like the nonprofits. So nonprofits would have to, we would do something similar to what they did with the CARES deal. They would, this would be like us giving them a grant. So they have to tell us, what do you want? Why do you want it? What's your financial standing? Send us your last 2 years audited numbers.
But to be clear, that's only if Commissioner's Court decides that that's one of the project
Right.
areas that they want to
Right.
do. Right, so we haven't even gotten into those details that Commissioner Martin is talking about, because we don't know how we're going to divvy up the money yet.
Yeah, so, I mean, whatever it is, whether it's broadband, emergency management, nonprofits, revenue loss, whatever the eligible projects are, then a process would have to be developed for each of those
Yes.
where money would leave the county, not for county function.
a step further, we've said emergency management. That was not necessarily stated verbatim in the law. What they did state was improvements, enhance them to public facilities, which could very well apply to emergency management and other areas if it can be related back to COVID-19, the pandemic. So I just want to make that clear.
So the key is that in the end, we have prudently spent the money, and we have hopefully made a positive impact upon Wilson County. And my opinion
And of
is,
course, a lot of people out there are saying, well, you should use it all on the roads. Well, we're not sure that that's an eligible expense today. We've had people that have said, hey, you should send it all to the citizens. Not sure that that's a doable thing. So we're still doing a lot of research. So the things that have to happen is the interim final rule is published. It's in a comment period. Once it's through with the comment period, then it will go back. It'll be reviewed. Then it'll be printed in the Federal Register. Then more than likely, the Treasury Department will write a guidance document, which may or may not coincide with exactly what the law says, because it'll describe their intent. So this is a very complicated situation that it will be evolving until it's over.
Yeah.
And this is literally right at, I think we finally figured out, approximately a 5-year project, because the funds all have to be allocated by 2024,
They have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024,
and then
and then spent.
2 more years, within 2 years, they have to be fully expended.
After 2024.
After 20, yeah, so it's December 2026 is when this will be done.
Obligation and performance is over.
I think we should leave the committee as it is, and whenever we get to the projects, then look at breaking it in or adding representation from making certain that each of the 4 municipalities within the county are represented by someone, whether it be the city manager or the mayor or some notable citizen that could have a positive impact. That's my thought.
Anybody else have any ideas?
The process is a little more complicated than I realized it was with the initial presentation.
I just want to make sure that the public or the citizens out there, get some sort of knowledge and representation besides just,
Okay, one thing about it, they've got representation from 5 people right here.
I understand that, Judge.
Okay, and here's another thing about how the money's spent. It's going for Wilson County. Where it's going to be spent is going to be Wilson County. And that's what a decision of the committee is going to make recommendations to Commissioners Court as to where it's going to be spent. And if it has something to do with needing more public, in which we will, and that was probably an hour part of the discussion the other day, maybe not quite that long, on the public input. How are we going to solicit public input?
So what we're doing right now is we are developing that. What information we're going to, there will be a new tab on the county website, and there will be either, and that's what we're figuring out. What's the best way for them? There'll either be a deal where they can send in their comments or their suggestions, asking, give us your contact information if you'd like to help us, whatever. We're working through all that right now, but main thing being, the first blush will be something like, Wilson County received the $9.9 million, and here are the things that it can be used for. Here are the things that we know today that it cannot be used for. And so that webpage is going to be really a living, ongoing document, because who knows, the rules may change by July 30th. So we just don't know. So we're going to put as much information out there as we can. And then we also discussed, how do we reach the people that don't do the internet or web page or Facebook or whatever that we have. And so there may be something that's a mass mailer that says, hey, write us a letter, or, return this, put on the back of it, put a deal for you to write out your comments and send it back. There's a lot of things that we can do to solicit public input. And I kind of honestly believe if we've got some real gut-wrenching decisions that, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity to provide public comment during the meetings, and it may be that we have a special meeting to discuss, what that is, as we get down the road. But we're really, I mean, we haven't even got our big toe wet yet in this thing, maybe our pinky toe, but.
And then, Judge, you're on the committee, and
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Martin's on the committee?
And when it does, when we get to that point, like I said, it's all gonna come before Commissioner's Court. We get the final say. And anybody,
I'm sorry, Judge, go ahead.
oh, and anybody can bend anybody's ear, bend your commissioner's ear, and then your commissioner can come to the committee, or can come to Brenda, can come to.
Well, I have a
Michelle.
question for Commissioner File. Do you think that by assigning or choosing a representative from each city would eliminate the need for us to have to go out for public input the way the committee has discussed?
I think it would help.
No, I'm asking
I
if would it be one or the other is what I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't,
In lieu,
No, it wouldn't,
no, I wouldn't think it'd be one or the other.
I mean, because,
and that would be my question, are these individuals that you are proposing come onto the committee are going to speak for the public in general, then that would be considered our public input, and we would need to have to go through the legwork of posting it on our website, doing a survey, getting the public comments and all of that.
because I think posted on the website is not gonna get very much input, because the stuff we have on the website now, people don't even pay attention to. We have the collection facility on our landfill, for instance, out there, and we get calls 7 days a week. When y'all open, it's on the webpage. I mean, and I just think having somebody from the public that somebody can communicate with, yeah, I just feel that that's more, I think it's more better for the whole program itself. Not saying that the
I mean,
committee.
y'all are saying y'all want public input, but you're sitting here saying you don't want anybody to help on the committee right now. I don't understand.
No, I don't think that's what we're saying at all. I think it's just trying to gauge which avenue of public input do we need.
Well, I think the public needs to be involved all the way around. I mean, that's what the money's supposed to be for. Ultimately, the Commissioner's Court has the final decision, but I don't see why the community couldn't have input to bring the information to Commissioner's Court.
Well, and maybe that's something we do next, Commissioner's Court, or, as we firm up, the process for soliciting public input, we bring that to you all. And you all decide, okay, man, I don't like that, we need to add maybe this, and this, maybe that's what we need to do. The concern with including people now, because we're in such the beginning stages of this huge endeavor, is, this is part of where the county has to figure out our process and administer it correctly and accurately by the law. When you add more people to the process in this part of the process, it can kind of get blurred. And so that's my recommendation is, as we move to actually recommend to the court, this is what we're thinking about, this is what the committee has discussed, on a very preliminary basis. Do you want us to move forward with it? And what that would mean was, okay, if we get your blessing and your approval, then we would go back to the drawing boards and then do all the research. Whether it's broadband, emergency management, or another public facility, or nonprofits.
Okay.
The other way
What
we
the-
can look at it though too is that if we do add people now from the outside, public people, then maybe that takes some of the heavy lifting off of Michelle, and really Michelle, and the grants department, because we were talking about, we serve 51,000 people in this county. If we're gonna do surveys and get public input, that could mean thousands of different comments. Maybe we put these public people onto the committee and charge them with pulling all the surveys, charge them with reading all of the information, bringing it back to everybody so that that's free labor for us. I mean, honestly.
You're gonna have to find the right kind of people to do that,
Right.
or you're
That's
just
why I'm
spinning
saying
your
I'm not
wheels. I
opposed
mean,
to
that's,
it. I think it's finding
Well,
the
you're
right
not,
people.
what you're saying is you won't get somebody on a committee and run them off. I mean, come on.
Okay, now here's the deal, excuse me. Okay, the committee was for convenience. Okay, we don't have to have the committee. We can have the commissioners' court,
Right.
just like we have right now, as the committee, and we can post it, and then people are welcome to come and have our input. Okay, that would be, if we want to get it expanded, that you don't get any more expansion than that. That, the whole county can come and give us public comments and input, just like we're doing at Commissioners Court. We can have Commissioners Court as the committee.
Jeff, I think all Brenda was trying to say is when we get down to the nitty-gritty, it's gonna take a lot of effort, and it's not gonna be a quick process. I mean, I honestly would not see us dispersing any funds until sometime next year, calendar year at this point. I mean, there's still a lot of unknowns we gotta get through. And then you have to develop those procedures, and like she said, all of that stuff is gonna come back to the court. We're gonna say, okay, we're gonna allot X number of dollars for nonprofits. Here's the criteria that we've developed for them to submit to us. We'd have to give them probably at least 60 days to put that kind of stuff together and then get it back. And then it's gotta be gone through and evaluated. And did they meet the criteria? Yes or no? Did they sort of meet the criteria? Well, maybe, maybe not. How many dollars do we have? How many dollars were requested? Can we give everybody what they wanted? And let's just say we were going to give $1 million to nonprofit and we only got applications for 100,000. Well, then we got to go back and figure out what we're going to do with the other 900,000. It's going to be just a revolving process, as we go through. You know, the whole deal. It's not a simple, yeah, let's get the public input and let's roll down the road. Well, there's a lot of things that are going to enter into how we can do that and what we can give those funds for. Because I said, I mean,
People need the money too. There's no-
well, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. But it's gonna have to pass muster with audit. It's gonna have to pass muster with what the rules and the regulations and the guidance documents are. Like the judge pointed out a while ago, we certainly don't want to even hand somebody a check for $10,000 and they go, oh, no, that was an ineligible expense. You have to pay the government back that $10,000. We don't want to go.
$10,000, I'm talking, if we go out to a major project and spend over $1 million or something,
Yeah.
and then find out that that was not a good expense.
Exactly.
And that money's coming out of our fund balance, and we don't have the money for
Right.
that to happen.
with my simple caddo brain, you know, I see this as where you've got all these possibilities out here, and what this committee is doing is taking them to a menu, so to speak. You get rid of all of these and take it to a menu of projects within the county. And when you get to that point, then you could solicit some additional folks to take a look at it. If TxDOT had a project, had money to where they're going to provide X number of dollars, kind of like the one we have now, the one that you and I are participating in, Commissioner File, and it was X number of dollars for roads. I would be in a better place as the commissioner to take a look at the roads within my county and see which ones I'm having the most difficulty with and which ones would service the citizens better than pulling together a big group of people who everybody wants me. And so you've got to a point that you've got to step in and make the decision, but I understand better, and I don't have a problem with the people within the county, again, that have expertise looking at this and making certain that these projects should qualify and others wouldn't for whatever reason, and bringing that down so that either Commissioners Court can vote on it, or the Commissioners Court could say at that point, we want to add some additional representation to make certain that everybody is taken care of. I mean, it's one of these things I guess we can debate for a while, and we have.
Is there already a process in place that the public is able to provide input, like on county roads, or how, what road needs to be repaired, or do we get public input already? And if so,
The
how?
most important roads within precinct 4, I'll speak for mine, is the mile that's in front of your house. Nothing else is important, no matter wherever it is.
And you get that.
It's the mile that's in front of your house is the one that's most important. And so you have to watch with this when you start apporting people, because it's going to be the 3 miles that are in front of whatever it is that's going to be the most important to
Yeah, I
them.
was just
And it really
curious
doesn't matter.
if there was a process in place, because I know that's something that our outside auditor is going to speak on in terms of inventory and things of that nature, but this is something that may lead us into having to develop some kind of process to provide either input or whatever, and then we wouldn't even be having this.
Isn't there something on our website where people can, Leanne would know. I know everybody calls Leanne from.
They call our cell phone number 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And that's not
Don't
going
matter
to stop,
when it
I'm
is,
sure.
Sunday morning, Saturday night,
Well, when I get one, I call Leanne.
you know.
I say, where is this?
That's-
Where is
that's
it?"
our-
Let me ask you something on somebody calling in. Do you jump to it and go fix their road or whatever they want right then?
Depends on how they act.
Depends on what it is.
Depends on what it
Then
is.
Y'all aren't taking public input? You've got public input and you're not doing
No.
it?
When we got a tree down the middle of the road, we can't take no public input. We got a call.
Got to go take
Okay,
care
but
of
I'm
it.
talking about somebody complaining about their road. That's public input. And y'all aren't gonna run out there like somebody wanted their road paved in front of their house.
When that,
I give
We
them an
say
answer.
no. We say no.
I give them an answer. If it's, and I give them a legitimate answer. We'll be there this week. We'll be there next week. And I take their name and I tell them, look, we should be able to be there by Monday of next week. If not, I'll give you a call and tell you when. To me, with my background, that's customer service. I made a fair amount of money based on customer service, and I've tried to bring that here. You can't make everybody happy all the time, but you can treat them like they're important and that you're going to take care of it when you can.
Okay, have we decided, okay, the agenda item is discuss and ratify committee and or make
All the way to number
changing the committee, or changing the numbers, or are we
Have a
gonna,
motion on the table, Judge, that Commissioner
8 out of 18.
was that a motion?
No, I didn't make a motion.
It was a
I was
suggestion.
just making a suggestion.
well, Judge, I'll put this on the agenda, and it's whatever the court wants to do, but I'll make a motion that we do add those members to the committee.
Describe those members.
Anybody that the commissioner picks from, like, from the city of Stockdale, Post, Lavernia, Floresville,
Just want to make sure I understand what your motion is.
that the
To
court,
the existing committee right
Yes.
now, not to the subcommittees.
no, existing committee.
Are you talking about elected officials from those cities, or are you
No,
talking about?
anybody that commissioner feels that can represent that area. Whether it's elected or citizen out there that's very capable,
And who will communicate both ways,
yes,
to us and back to them,
yes,
or back to you, or back to you, or back to you. That's like,
Right.
that would be imperative.
So they'll be adding 4 people to the committee?
that's my suggestion, but it's up to the court.
I think it's at the next level.
I'm sorry?
I said, I think it's at the next level. I think the experts need to go through and take a look. We've got complicated issues here, and I think once we have the complicated issues identified, then we can have that level and have those folks come in and help guide which direction we go from the issues. The issues that are going to be presented, not all of those issues are going to be funded, I would assume. We're just
You're correct.
identifying,
We've got a list of over 15 issues right now. and not all of them are gonna be funded.
Exactly. I can see that.
And not all of them would be eligible to be
And not all
funded
of them are
even.
eligible to be
Well,
funded.
and that's what we're trying to me,
That's what we're
that's what the
trying to-
committee is for, is get to the point to where there is a decision to make. Right now, we're trying to determine what the menu is again that we're gonna be able to choose from. And to me, that's when the citizens need to get involved, because it requires an expertise that the typical, I'm not saying there isn't somebody in precinct 4 or the other precincts that could do it. I'm saying that it's gonna be hard to find that individual. When you get to the next level, it's not as complicated because the parameters are already determined. And it's determined that, hopefully at that point, that all of these would qualify. Because that needs to be determined before you get a group in to take a look at that they all need to qualify, and then we need to have folks come in and take a look then. Otherwise, I think, I'm not taking anything away from the citizens in precinct 4, but I think it gums up the works.
So who picks that next committee? Does the original committee picks the next group, or does the court come back?
Well, I think the court would come in and take a look. You'd have that committee, and then
I mean,
at that
I'll be
point,
quite honest, I'll tell you this way, and no offense, but I didn't like the way it was done last time, because the way it was put on the agenda, it said discuss the possibility of a committee. Next thing I know, I got named on the committee. And that's just what my point is. I'll say that. You know, it was, if you look at the agenda for the last meeting, it said discuss and take action on appointing a committee. Next thing I know, we got names in front of us that nobody, nothing that's wrong with the names that's on the committee. I think they're very good people, very capable, and I agree with what's there. But I think the court should have discussed whether we even wanted a committee or not.
God, you had to have a committee.
If you go back and look at the way it was posted on the agenda.
But was that not the opportunity to discuss
No,
whether or not
because
you
we
wanted
always
to-
said, these are the names we want. So what we're gonna say, we don't want these people?
Well,
So it
yeah.
was voted on, it was not,
I mean,
it was just
I
on the
guess we could
agenda.
have, I guess I could have. But I mean, I think that should have been discussed prior to the voting of it.
Well, it was.
We've had a good discussion today.
Yes, we did.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table.
Can you tell me what the motion is?
What's that? Did you hear it?
No, sir.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That we add
Motion?
members from each of the representing cities in the county. The court will pick, like the commissioner will pick one from each city.
Motion.
A member?
And I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Fowle, second by Commissioner Perdola. And my deal is, we're not soliciting outside input, we're not necessarily, but, sitting through the meeting the other day, and as much discussion as we had, and as long as it took us, this is gonna be another job. Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the table, and the motion is for each commissioner in their precinct to appoint one more person to the committee.
Well, no, he said he wanted somebody from
Town.
each city.
Each city?
He said city is
You
what.
say
is
city?
what- City is what the motion is.
Yes. But we can make it from the precinct. Like the court,
Well, then
You-
amend
you'll
your
have to
motion.
make that.
That's why I said, make sure you're making clear what we're voting on.
Yeah, what's a city?
It'd have to be the
It's
precinct.
two different things.
Okay, would you you want to change it to precinct, Paul?
yes, to each precinct.
Okay.
One from each precinct. Each precinct.
Okay, now we got the motions straight. From each commissioner appoint one person from their precinct. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we're getting extra. Let's see,
I guess,
person on each one.
for informational purposes, our next meeting is July 6th for the committee.
No, we go to. Y'all committee members.
The next committee meeting is July the 6th, so it would,
At what time and where?
10 a.m.
I guess it'll be in here.
Change the location, but it'll definitely be there.
You're over at the other,
Here in the courtroom?
Well, it's going to probably have to be in the courtroom now, because we're not going to have enough room in my conference room.
We're on the original committee.
5 plus 2 advisors.
There'll be 12 people
Four.
on the committee now.
okay, July the 6th at 10 a.m.
Was it 10 or 9? Did we say 10? Okay.
So I guess, when you have your representative, you can forward me their contact information and copy to Brenda, just so that we're all in the know.
And what are you gonna call it? A committee?
Right now, it's just, we haven't really, it's the,
That'd be easy. You
it's
can
the-
call your constituents, say, would you be able to, a committee?
Well, they were supposed to
Don't tell
call me and they didn't.
Are you in a hurry? No?
That's
Okay.
good.
Then we're not going to skip to your item then. It's only one more before it anyway. Okay, moving to agenda item number 9, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Brenda Trevino County Auditor, discuss and take possible action on UniFirst contracts.
So last week, or week before, we have 3 of our precincts and our building and yard departments are contracted with UniFirst for supplies as well as uniforms. Precinct 1 is with a different vendor, but UniFirst was wanting to decrease some of the pricing, and lower some of the pricing. We are still in contract with UniFirst, but in order to accept the lower pricing, they require us to go to have an extended contract. So a meeting was had with Commissioner File and Kristen Labus, and then I kind of got pulled in toward the end of it. And at the result was requesting UniFirst then to have the same pricing across the board for the existing 4 contracts that we have, to lower the pricing on all of that, on those 4. However, they are requesting that we sign new contracts, and those contracts would be for a 5-year period, starting from the date of the signature of the contract. What puts us in a sticky situation is that the current contracts, they are still active contracts, so we cannot go out for competitive pricing. However, we can sign new contracts with the lower pricing. The existing contracts, for example, building and yard, expires or terms in May of next year. The others still have, I believe, 2 or 3 years out left on them.
Is it a year?
I don't know, I don't have the numbers total. Are you talking about the total, what we spent?
Well, the contract with UniFirst.
Each precinct, right now, each precinct has their own, like, the Road and Bridge has their own contract.
I mean, general, I mean, we're
Each
talking
precinct.
20,000 or 80,000?
I would have to pull budget numbers to find out what they're budgeted, or, yeah.
We don't have a countywide contract.
Yeah, I know it, I was just looking for a ballpark.
Yeah, I'd have to pull the budget numbers, Kathy, to look at.
Okay,
Well, what's your?
You'd get better numbers.
Item, you remember?
I would think the price would
But
be.
this also includes supplies,
Right.
yeah, so it's broken out. So what was brought,
Well, I mean, even if it's 10,000 a precinct, which I think is way more than enough, then that's 10,000 times 4, so you're talking roughly $40,000.
I'd be guessing, but.
I'm sure it's less than that.
And it's going through the buy board, so it,
Probably more like 8.
yeah,
So they're on the buy board?
yeah,
Well, then we don't have to.
we don't have to
Yeah.
bid it.
So, I just brought it's really up to you. If you decide you want to lock in the lower pricing, the savings is, I think he calculated it.
$200 a week. We're actually gonna save
Yeah.
$800 a month
On
by
the
lowering the contract.
building, on the building and
Per
yard.
precinct,
No,
No,
countywide.
well, it was on the building and yard, because this also includes supplies, like, toilet paper, bottles, soap, things of that nature, so they were able to lower the pricing on that as well. So the court can go one or two ways. You can leave the contracts as they are right now, because that is money that was already budgeted, and not even mess with these, and let the contracts come to expire when they do, and then we can revisit and look and try to go out for, competitive pricing. Or the 4 that we have now, if you want to accept the lower pricing now, you'll be locking yourselves in for 5 years. That is your choice.
And maybe you said this and I missed it, are each of the precincts, the amount that we're spending similar? I mean, I'm not asking for
It varies
specific
because you
numbers.
have different, now,
Depends on the uniform,
the dollars are the same.
Commissioner. Every, some have Wrangler pants, some have the regular jeans like, some have polo shirts, some have striped shirt, some have regular.
But if he gets polo shirts and you get polo shirts, you're gonna be paying the
Yes.
same.
Right now, we're not
But we
paying
don't
the
have to
same.
get the same thing. It's just a
No.
contract, and we can do it the way we've been doing.
Correct. It's standard pricing across the board for whatever you choose. It's kind of like a menu item.
I'm pleased with them myself.
Really, the only thing would be is locking yourselves in for 5 years.
I had complaints with their predecessor.
Oh, yeah.
Are you have the same salesman countywide?
No,
No.
there's 4 different
Okay.
salesmen per
3 and
precinct.
4 have one salesman, and the salesman for me and the maintenance is a different salesman.
And I do know that Commissioner Martin is in the process of revisiting his existing contract with the other vendor to see if there is an out option with that because of the lack of service that they've been providing. So there is a possibility that Commissioner Precinct 1 will go to possibly UniFirst as well at the same pricing.
I know through the last year, anytime we needed something,
Yep,
they got it quick for us.
they're good, they're
Hand
dependable, and when
sanitizer.
you have a problem, they tend to
Something we
take
may
care of
want
it.
to look at, do we need to have all of these dispensers and stuff that we have now, being that the COVID ain't what it is, I mean, we got a bunch of them that's costing us extra money throughout the county, do we?
You
need
probably
it?
need some, but not as many. I
Exactly.
mean, one thing we learned through COVID is keeping your hands clean makes a difference.
Yeah. And one of the other things too, and to stay in line with consistency, and Commissioner Fowler and I had some lengthy discussion about this, whereas every commissioner was responsible or had been signing their own contracts, not really bringing it to court for any, and I feel that, it needs to be a court decision, because eventually what I would like to see at some point is the county going to one master service agreement where everybody is the same, and there's one contract period, and we're not signing 5 different contracts. That would be my goal.
I'll make a motion that the precincts select UniFirst as their provider of uniforms and supplies. I guess it's more than the precincts.
Well, it would be, the contracts that I have are for precinct 2, precinct 3, precinct 4, and Wilson County Building and Yard.
All right? Well, I'll make a motion that that precinct 2, 3, and 4, and the building and yard have a contract with UniFirst for providing
One general contract.
one general contract for providing uniforms and supplies.
Well, they are individual contracts, but with
But-
the same period.
Are we going to go with a lower pricing and sign a 5-year contract at this point?
I
Or
would
let
think-
these contracts expire and then look at it?
I would
Isn't that
think,
what the question is?
well, I guess so.
Just for your information, I mean, Cintas did lower our uniform costs this year when we renewed the contract with them earlier this year. So that seems to be a general trend for what it's worth. I mean, it's a game you always play. Something else could happen and the cotton boll weevil comes back and eats all the cotton and so the prices go up. So I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're saving money. We're just extending the term if you choose to do that.
What kind
And they
of,
did say this morning, actually, that they would review periodically, I think quarterly or semi-annually, if they're able to reduce pricing in the course of the 5 years.
what's the out if we're not satisfied with their service or whatever?
There is some termination agreement in here. I mean, we'd have to give written notice of non-renewal at
There's a
least
penalty
90,
there you
90
gotta
days
pay.
prior to the next expiration date.
I would think with the potential of inflation over the next 5 years, if you can lock in a contract,
Yeah, I agree. I just want to.
because I don't see anything going down.
No.
So does he have his motion worded the way you'd like it worded?
Yes,
I'll second it then.
Motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Martin, that we go with the, is this gonna be the 5-year contract?
Yes.
Yes.
With, UniFirst, Uniform Company. Is there any more discussion?
Sheriff, we're providing all of the, like now, the toilet paper, the paper towels, like over at the jail now?
No idea.
Okay. I understood we were now. We used to not. That was always, I mean, that's fine. That's part of the, I think, more
Actually, I guess,
expense
you
that
know
we
if that's
got.
included in the
It
sheriff's
goes
office,
under
including the
maintenance, is
building
what
and
I'm trying to
grounds?
say. It goes under the Kevin budget, I guess. Greg and Kevin's budget. That needs to be, I guess.
Well, but is that
budget
included in these?
Part of that
Yeah,
budget needs to be,
it's under
you know, if we're gonna do the
building and our
sheriff's
supplies.
office and all these others, add more to that maintenance budget.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
Brenda's saying that they are included.
They are included now?
well, let me clarify. So we have a budget for supplies. Prior, I guess maybe a year ago or so, the sheriff's department was ordering their own supplies,
Exactly.
their own toilet paper, their own soap, their own everything. So it was he has his own budget, county has their own budget. But then I believe it was, I don't know exact time when it happened, but now everything that we order from UniFirst, maybe not everything, but is being replenished in the sheriff's department, in the jail, toilet paper or soap. But I don't believe that the sheriff's department is picking up any of the expense.
Just somebody to look at budget time.
So I have it on my notes to review for during this next, over the
Because I
next
think the
few weeks.
expo has its separate budget for all of
For
that.
supplies as well.
Yes.
And then, will this be included in the contract?
The maintenance.
The sheriff's office and the expo center?
Well, all the pricing is the same, it just depends on who's gonna pay for it, and
Okay.
that's for us to figure out.
Just
So
the
it's not
budget is-
contract related,
Okay.
yeah,
But it'll all be included in the supposedly cheaper prices?
yes.
Okay,
Judge, I'll get you to sign these after court, if that's okay.
okay. I got something for you to sign, too.
Okay.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. You got it down, Eva?
Yes, sir.
Okay, everybody understands it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have new contracts for uniforms. Okay, moving right along. Agenda item number 10, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Brenda L. Trevino County Auditor, presentation of four-year 2021 external audit by Debbie Frazier of Armstrong, Vaughn and Associates, PC.
Yes, so Debbie is here. As you know, Debbie and her group were here over the last month or longer, 60 days or so, doing our 2020-21 external audit. So I will turn it over to Debbie to discuss it.
Well, thank you for, number one, hiring
CARES Act that you just finished, the compliance was not actually finalized until December of 2020, which made it very difficult for us to do our audits because that's what we're auditing, is the compliance portion.
And what was that for, you said?
The CARES Act, which is the little sister to the new grant. So you really want to be very, very careful with that because they're going to be much more stringent with this grant because they've already estimated that there's $400 million in fraud with the monies that you guys have, all counties and cities have used up to this date. So you just want to really make sure that that is something that you have the foresight to implement early.
Debbie, can I ask you a question before we get started?
Sure.
Okay, the fraud that's been identified, how did they handle that? Did they?
They are not right now. No, there's too much of it. They're currently, we actually have had fraud from an EDIL. Oh, I'm sorry. In our office, and somebody took out a loan in our name through the EIDL loans, and it's a significant amount. Well, neither one of the partners were contacted. We contacted two former partners. They had not been contacted. So what's happening is they're giving the money first and asking questions later. Also, if you're giving money to a nonprofit, for instance, you have to audit that nonprofit to ensure that they've spent this money according to the grant, or whomever you give money. So if you give money to a city or to a fire district, you need to go in and audit that they've spent that money accordingly because you're responsible for those pass-through monies. So there's a lot of little idiosyncrasies that you need to make sure that you comply with, and then that will ensure the monies are spent accordingly. But additionally, the monies really are set for infrastructure, not typically for throwing back at the constituents of the county. So you just have to be very, very careful. That being said, I'll go ahead, and this will probably be the boring part of the meeting. So I joked with the judge, you didn't want to have me first because I'd probably put you all to sleep. So I'm going to start by...
He's already done that.
Thank you. That's about the first time that's happened to me. On page 1, this is your independent auditor's report. And basically what it says is after adjustment, your financial statements are fairly stated and materially correct. I think we had a few more journal entries this year than you regularly would have had. And a lot of that was due to the change in accounting systems. You changed as of September or October 1 to a new accounting system. And you kind of were operating dual systems, and those dual systems weren't updated at the same time. Sorry. The next section that starts on page 4 is the MD&A, the Management Discussion and Analysis, and it's on a full accrual basis, or the discussion's on a full accrual basis, written from basically Brenda's point of view. However, we did write that letter and asked her to correct anything that she felt differently. I'm going to sit down. If you turn to page 14, this is your statement of net position. And if you'll remember, your financial statements are presented in two different ways. The full accrual basis in an audit, which you typically don't see throughout the year because you're a governmental, but the full accrual basis shows you your fixed assets for the entire county, all of your debt that's associated with the county, such as pension liabilities, through TCDRS, your bonds, your capital leases, and your compensated absences. So if you look at page 14, this is the this is the assets. The total assets were 29.8 million. Of that, 11.7 million of it is cash and investments. You had deferred outflows of resources, and these are really associated with your pension liabilities and your other post-employment benefits, in your case, which is retiree health. On the next page, page 15, you have total liabilities of 10.5 million. And I just want to point out, the net pension liability is at $1,079,000. And then your other post-benefit, which is your retiree health, is at $510,855. Your deferred inflows of resources are $764,195. And then that brings us down to your total net position of $19.3 million. Of that, $6.2 million is net investment in capital assets, or your fixed assets minus all debt associated with those assets. And then your unrestricted net position is $10.7 million, which is a fairly healthy net position. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 18 and 19. This is your balance sheet. And this is the way you're used to seeing your financial statements. You typically don't see fixed assets. You don't see any debt associated. So this is the way you budget. Your total assets for all the governmental funds, which include general fund, road and bridge, debt service, and other non-major governmental funds, or all those small special revenue funds or capital outlay funds. Your total assets were $16.6 million, and your total cash and investments were $11.7 million. Of that, the general fund had $8.4 million in cash and cash equivalents. If you turn to page 20, this is the second part of your balance sheet. Your total liabilities at the end of the year were $1,676,824. And if you'll notice, these liabilities don't have any debt, no pension liability, and no compensated absences. The deferred inflows of resources here, these are unavailable revenues or revenues that were not collected within 60 days after year end. So your deferred inflows of resources were unavailable tax revenue of $1,352,000 and unavailable court revenue of $1.2 million. That court revenue is from the county clerk, the JP, and the district clerk. Your total fund balance at the end of the year was $12,346,921 in all the funds combined. The unassigned fund balance, however, for the general fund is $8,995,000. And I want to point out that we recommend, or the GFOA recommends, that you have 4 to 6 months of operating expenditures in your unassigned fund balance. And currently you have 8. And that's very healthy. I'm going to ask you to skip all the way back to the budget to actual reports. And those begin on page 53. And again, this is how you budget. So you get a glimpse at 2 things: how you did compared to 2019, as well as how you budgeted during the year. This is for your general fund only. Your total revenues were $18,921,000 compared to your budget amount of $16,137,000. If you'll notice, you'll see that grants and contributions were not budgeted, and that was primarily your CARES Act money. Now, the CARES Act money had to be spent in specific items that were related to the coronavirus. I think you had budgeted, and this is kind of where it's apples and oranges, but for accountants, it's oranges and oranges. You did not budget those funds. You budgeted the expenses that were actually used, for instance, EMS and Sheriff's Department. And however you spent those funds and recorded them to the Department of Treasury, they think you have already spent those funds. And I know with conversations with Brenda that, you're planning to spend these, but in the eyes of the government, you have already spent those funds and been released. Your total expenditures for the year were $15,924,000 compared to your budget of $15,821,000. So you had a positive variance, a negative variance of $103,390. And if you slide on over to the last column, you'll see that you spent $15 million in the prior year. So your expenditures were up about $925,000. You had other sources of financing. This encompasses transfers in and transfers out. You transferred $258,000 out to other funds, mainly non-major funds. And then you had transfer in of $5,685. So your net change in fund balance was $2.7 million. Of that, you have to remember that you received $2 million from the Department of Treasury. So your fund balance went from $6.2 million to almost $9 million. On the next page, page 54, is your road and bridge departments. You actually brought in revenue of $4.5 million compared to the budget of $5.2 million. And if you look at that, you'll see that your miscellaneous revenues were down from the budgeted amount. And that's the main area where the differences occurred. The total expenditures were $5 million compared to the budget of $5.2 million. And so you had a positive variance there of $210,905. And you spent $4.4 million in that area last year. You issued a capital lease obligation of $315,000, bringing you to a net change in fund balance of $164,288. So your fund balance decreased by $834,756. I'd like to point on page 56, this is your net pension liability and related ratios. The third line up from the bottom, or the third number up from the bottom, is the percentage that your pension liabilities are funded. And if you'll notice, in 2019, because this report's on a calendar year and provided mainly by Texas County and District Retirement Fund, who performs the audit and actuarial study, you'll see that you were 96.15% funded this year compared to 87.81% last year. And again, GFOA recommends that anything over 70% is considered very well funded. So you would be in the exceptional line. I do want to point out, you might wonder, why did it go from 87.8 to 96.15? Midway up your page, there's a net investment income, and the investments are measured on the date of the calendar year end. So we had a very good year in 2019, $3.8 million, compared to a negative $437,000 in 2018. 2017 was up there at $3 million. But there were two reasons. The date that the investment report was issued, which is December 31st, 2018, and you might remember that we had a slight downfall that year. But they also changed the mix of investments at TCDRS to be slightly more conservative. Any questions on that? Yes.
While we're not going back to questions, okay, the CARES Act money, it shows, we haven't spent it?
No, we did.
You did.
We got it.
Okay, how,
We got it, and it was used to offset what we had
yes,
expended and budgeted for salaries in the sheriff's
yes.
department.
Why does it say it's not spent?
No, it is spent.
It is spent.
Yeah, it's spent. I guess I was just, when Brenda and I were talking, she kept saying, well, it hasn't been spent yet on several, because you have other things that you're funding with, going to fund. And we want to be careful and just say that we've spent that money. It's now in fund balance, and we're going to spend it on specific things. We're going to spend the fund balance on specific things later on. But yes.
I think, because we didn't, what she's referring to is we didn't spend we didn't spend what was budgeted with general fund money because we used the CARES Act money to offset the expenses that were already budgeted.
Yes.
That's why our general fund balance has increased by $2 million
Yes.
because it's sitting in the bank now to offset what we,
Well, that's what I
yeah.
Yeah.
was under the impression, but then again, all of a sudden, we haven't spent it yet.
No, you have spent it. You have spent it.
We
Yes.
put it on something that was already budgeted.
Yes.
Yes.
For the purpose
Which
of
was
the
good for
grant,
our
it has
fund
been
balance.
expended.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, and then the next question, the 800 and something thousand dollars for the fund balance for the road and bridge, that's all total? Each
precinct.
one? Each precinct?
Yes, sir. Those are combined.
Okay, so some of them may be more, some of them may be less.
Yes. And if you want details of that, they're further in the back, I believe. We split those out. Maybe not.
I think they're on page 65, where you break down each individual precinct.
65.
65.
So at the end of the year, public transportation for road and bridge number one had 175,832. Public, or number two had 195,451. Number three had 128,292, and four had 335,181. But if you go to page 65 and look at the total revenues for each precinct, of course, you have tax revenue higher in specific precincts because of the property values. Any questions on those?
You just mentioned property values. Are you going by the property values in that precinct or the property values countywide?
In the precinct.
Because precinct 3 is probably our richest county as far as.
Not according to this. It's kind of interesting.
Well, but remember
Even though it's
precinct
the
two.
smallest county, smallest precinct in the county. What's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's probably why Paul's is bigger, is because there's more in it. So if you're counting 10 houses at $1 million, you're counting 20 at 750,000 or something, you know.
Well, this is based on your budget and where things lie, so. And we did have a prior period adjustment of 19,000 in road and bridge number one, but we did not have any in any of the other funds.
Okay.
Okay? Any other questions? No? I would like you to turn back to page 50. I just want to go over the prior period adjustments that we performed during the year.
What page again, ma'am?
Page 50. So we had overstated other liabilities of $150,381. This was quite a few things, mainly just things that had been left on the balance sheet that had not been corrected in the prior audit. The next item is the overstated Opeb liability, which is your retiree health insurance. It was overstated last year by 4.1 million. I think after many discussions, we just think that maybe they added one other digit and didn't go back and check what they had recorded, because it was only about 450,000 last year. And this year it's 511. It's easy for us to tell that because we received the same report from Minimum. And then overstated long-term debt, which had to do with capital lease of 107,000. And that was in the government-wide statements. And if you turn to page 51, we did have prior period adjustments in specific funds. And you might wonder, well, you don't see a 4 million prior period adjustment in these funds, and it's because they're on the modified accrual, not the full accrual. And your retiree health only shows up in your full accrual statements. So we restated several things in general fund, one of them being the allocation of the prior year ad valorem taxes of 81,610. We basically reduced the ad valorem tax and then increased it in debt service. It hadn't been allocated correctly. And then your overstated other liabilities of 96,395 and 53,986. And again, these were items that were just left on the balance sheet and hadn't been reversed in the prior year. So I'm not going to go over any of the other part of the reports unless you would like to go over specific pages. I was going to go over the actual governance letter.
Before you go on the debt part, the money that was applied back to, does it have to be applied to the debt?
Yes.
So we need to do that.
Yes, and kind of as we discussed on Friday, you probably want to look at your adjustments currently, or your fund balance in your debt service currently. You know you'll have to make one more payment in your for your long-term debt, and then you have several capital lease payments. And then when you adjust your M&O and your debt service, you'll want to go ahead and reduce probably your debt service so you can catch up. And Brenda, I think I gave you my copy of the letter. Sorry.
They each have one right in.
Yeah, let me give you that. Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry. I put it on the bench in front of me.
But this is your copy, and this
Yeah,
is.
you keep that. So the communication with those charged with governance is,
That's in the letter, I'm sorry, in the separate letter that was on the inside. That's what she's referring to now.
so this is basically telling you my responsibilities versus your responsibilities. I'm responsible for the opinion on the financial statements, and you're basically responsible for giving me your firstborn child. So you have to supply me with a lot of information. I'd rather it be the opposite way. You can have my firstborn child. So our responsibilities is, again, to give you an opinion. The plan, scope, and timing of the audit, we experienced a delay in order to get sufficient and appropriate documentation to support our opinion. We complied with all ethics requiring and regarding independence. Significant accounting policies. There were no initial selection of accounting policies and no changes in significant accounting policies or their application during 2020. Next year, I suspect you will have a couple because the new GASB lease comes out, as well as your fiduciary GASBs going into effect. Significant accounting estimates. We had useful lives and depreciation calculations on capital assets, allowance for uncollectible receivables for fines and property tax, and then we had your net liabilities for your pension as well as your Opeb liabilities. Both of those are supplied to us based on the assumptions provided by Millimum in the case of TCDRS and your retirement. They prepared those reports. Financial statement disclosures, we feel that GASB 68, which is your net pension liability, and GASB 75, which related to Opeb liabilities for retiree health. And the reason we say those is because there's so many factors. The ages of life, and you're estimated, if you're a male, to live till 75, a female to 85, but we all know we don't all die at 75 or 85, so that's one of the assumptions. The investment is the assumption, whether you're male or female. I went over investments, and then the length of time of retirement. So all of those are included in those assumptions that Millimum use. Uncorrected and corrected misstatements. We did have several, and I'm just going to let you read that paragraph later. These are items that we did not correct because they did not meet a materiality level for us to necessitate correcting. We did do a couple prior period adjustments that I went over with you earlier. We did have to notify the prior auditor that we had material misstatement and the effects of the prior period for the predecessor auditor. Disagreements with management, we had none. And then we just had a couple comments. If you turn to page 4. So fixed asset tracking. The county has not been tracking or depreciating the items recorded as property and equipment, nor do you have a formal capitalization policy. We discussed this with Brenda as well as the judge on Friday, and you need to have basically a list of where all of your equipment is, who's it assigned to, and you also need to make sure that any vehicles that you own or any other property is on your insurance list. So throughout the year, if you get rid of equipment, you need to take that off as well as the depreciation associated with that. We also kind of discussed some counties determine a point system on all roads in the county, and then they will pick the lowest and try to bring them up to the average scale of other roads in the county. Bank reconciliations. When we reviewed the September 2020 bank rec, we noted that checks were noted as outstanding when they had actually cleared in the prior months. They were corrected subsequently. If this had not been corrected, these outstanding checks would have remained outstanding, thus understating cash balance in subsequent months. You should review the bank reconciliations and verify that items are clearly marked as outstanding and cleared based on the data contained in the bank statements in the comparison noted on the general ledger. Another item is typically we'll try to check on your bank recs that you've been preparing while we're here. So the period from October 1st through the date we were here last, and you were behind on those reconciliations, and we just, again, want to make you aware. Investments, the quarterly investment reports prepared by the county treasurer did not include all of the necessary information included in the Public Funds Act. Additionally, the investment policy has not been approved on an annual basis. This is a requirement from Section 2279 that you actually approve this policy annually, and that your quarterly investment reports meet the requirements of that act. Grant activity, restricted revenues and liabilities. While performing audit procedures, we noticed that there were grant revenues and expenses as well as other restricted revenue accounts recorded as liabilities. This could result in revenues and expenses being understated and liabilities being overstated. Additionally, liabilities correctly recorded to be remitted to the state may not be paid timely due to the commingling of these accounts. Management should review the liability accounts periodically to ensure the transactions recorded to these accounts are payments to be paid to others. Additionally, separate revenue and expense accounts should be set up for funds received and expended that should be recognized in that fiscal year. Census testing. TCDRS and GASB 68 require that you test your population of retirees or potential retirees to make sure that the data that you're submitting to TCDRS is correct. It's important because that money or that actuarial study is used to determine your liability for pensions and as well as the retiree health, but mainly the pension. The pension, if it's skewed, if there are a number of employees skewed, then that liability that we've put on your financial statements may not be correct. So you should maybe send out something to all employees, have them review the information reported to TCDRS on an annual basis to ensure the information reported is correct and so the estimate of net pension liability can be accurate as possible. So the information you want to send out is, are they male or female? What age are they? Because if Brenda's listed at 20, that her calculation's not going to be correct. If she's listed as a male, her calculation's not going to be correct. And that happens a lot more than you think. You also have to look at the hire date. My sister works for a school district, and she has an odd name, and she was listed as a male. She's a female. And so those types of things skew the pension liability. Inventory. Inventory is not properly tracked for the Road and Bridge Fund. As a result, there was no indication of the amount of inventory on hand at year end, nor how quickly inventory is being used for projects or construction. The Road and Bridge departments should perform a count of inventory on hand at the end of the fiscal year at a minimum. The inventory count should detail each item on hand with cost incurred to purchase those items. Furthermore, the county auditor should consider checking the inventory counts to verify that these are accurate and complete.
And that is related not to equipment inventory, but to material inventory.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So, a lot of times we receive material from TxDOT, our only quote cost for that is, so do we need to keep track of time and how many dump trucks and what loaders and all that we need to use to assign that cost, or since, or how?
No, I would just put in the value of that inventory. You may receive it, but you've assigned no value to that inventory. So you probably want to determine what, for instance, if it's asphalt, 3 tons of asphalt is equal to, I don't know, 120,000. So you would want to record that 120,000 on your financial statements as an in-kind from TxDOT.
So it's only material that has value?
That's the only material that you have?
No, I'm saying, so it's only the material that has value that we need to report to that, because I guess.
Well, for instance, if you bought the asphalt at the end of the year and you had 120,000 in inventory, we would want you to recognize that as an asset going into the next year.
Right, but what I'm saying is, I guess, based on your answer to my question about whether or not we have a cost for material that's given to us by the state, you're saying we don't need to accrue that, or don't need to report that.
It has no
It has no
no
value.
dollar value. We didn't pay for it.
Right.
You didn't pay for it, but you also want to recognize it because it's a donated item.
It has value.
It has value.
At best, it's a guesstimate.
Well, you can actually, if it's asphalt, how much do you typically pay for asphalt? I would record,
It's usually reclaimed material, it's not new material.
oh, okay, if it's reclaimed,
Reclaimed.
then no, I would not
Even
recognize
base
that.
material, I mean, you got a big pile out here. I mean, you can look at it and
It's an
guess.
estimate, or a guesstimate.
But,
yes.
but it's just that.
It's all reclaimed material, it's nothing new.
But what
From the
about
state,
well,
but-
that's just for that particular.
Yeah.
But what about the other, the asphalt that you do order, the base material that's new, that you come and it gets on your yard or whatever, that is the bulk of us not keeping track of that inventory. We know based off of the invoices, you know, from the vendors that you used, yeah, we ordered however many tons of this, and we paid for it, but not specific to what, and this is a conversation that Debbie had with me. We're not specific enough to say, we ordered this much material and we repaired X, Y, and Z roads with this much material, and this is the value of it, and have a plan in process, so.
That's kind of difficult when you don't have an assistant or someone to do that.
And
But
I'll let Debbie speak to that, because Debbie did bring up how one of the other counties did it with their.
Yeah, a lot of counties are now combining the road and bridge, so all four would be in charge of your precincts, but you would possibly share equipment, and I know it's not the most popular thing, but that way you don't have to have many leases and equipment sitting, not being used. And then you have an expert who can identify typically what roads need to be repaired.
it's a unit road system.
Yes, a unit road system.
We're not,
You're not there yet.
well, and the issue is, you know, how do you get there? Because as a court, it's our understanding that we don't have the authority to go to a unit road system, that has to come from the people. That's our understanding, and so it makes sense to a large degree,
As you become
but
bigger.
you have to get there, and
Yeah.
and there'd be a debate if we went over that today, whether to get there or not, but we don't have the ability to get there. And my point is that and mine's probably not that different than everyone else's, most of the base material that we haul directly to a site. We keep a small amount on hand for times when we have a quick job to do, or maybe times when it's rained and the cost of base material is way too expensive because you're paying for water. So I can walk out and look at that pile and do a guesstimate. But from the standpoint of keeping records of the fact that we hauled material,
Right, and what Debbie had recommended too was, without going to the extent of the unit road system, that possibly the court may consider at a later time hiring one individual who works for all four precincts, who manages all of the inventory by project, by precinct. So you would have, instead of you having an assistant working strictly for precinct 4, it would be one person working for all precincts to help manage the inventory tracking system for audit purposes specifically, and to benefit you all as commissioners, to give you an idea of how much is truly being spent on each specific road and repair, and what's due and when, and that sort of thing. So just something for the court to consider.
But what you asked for in here right now is just a year-end inventory.
Yes.
and is that?
Which can be done. I mean, I do a inventory with my parents every year on a concrete pipe. So there's rock, there's, cement. So, I mean, you can
do a
guesstimate pretty close by measuring the height and the width.
Is that a fiscal year or the calendar?
Fiscal year. Oh, no, yeah, 9/30.
9/30, okay.
I believe there's also some software too that will help manage materials and.
We don't keep much
Yeah.
material home.
Because what I don't want to try to get into right now is saying, well, I ordered,
Yeah, it's,
5 trucks
we
and
keep a
then
little bit.
one dump truck went to this road and another one went to that road and all of that, trying to,
That's exactly right.
you're not trying to get us to balance what we got in and coming out.
No.
You just want to know or approximately what we have left at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you may have nothing, but you also may order a large, there may be something, you've bid on something, you may have a large amount on hand. We want to recognize that as not being spent yet on your balance sheet, because it could be material. Material to the financial statements, not material.
Are we going, or could we produce from your office or one of us something for this fiscal year inventory, some sort of format, so that everybody turns in the same thing? I mean, it kind of makes sense because, Commissioner File may type his up and I might write mine on a piece of butcher paper or something I tore
Yeah,
up.
I could come up with something. I can work with Debbie to know exactly,
It's not that complicated,
keep it
but
as simple as.
No, it's not. It's
keep it
as simple as an
simple
Excel
the Commissioner from
spreadsheet.
Precinct 4, which is
Okay.
pretty simple.
Yeah. Without
I
saying
mean, I
those
think you
words,
could just make
yeah.
But like,
an Excel spreadsheet and have all the material listed on it. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
like Commissioner Wiley and I were just talking, we don't have any of this material on the yard. What material we purchase, it usually goes straight to a road project, so
But you're going to have
we've got a small amount,
You're gonna have
very,
some.
very minimal amount of material on
But-
the yard.
I spent my life in a company where we had to inventory, product on a regular basis, so I can kind of make certain that we don't have a lot on hand at that point as well. You just have a chance to haul, you don't haul, but you count what's there.
And again, it's to make sure that your financial statements are not materially misstated, and it's also a good practice.
You'd need room on there that would explain donated material, however that would be communicated.
Well, but that's what she's saying. We
Yeah.
don't have to account for donated material.
If it's riprap or something like that, it's,
Base material, if you have a chance to get some of that, or.
well, if it's base material and it's worth something, you're going to have to.
We paid hauling, and that would be all that we paid.
So you may want to look at what that is worth, and the difference between the hauling and the actual cost would be your donated that you'd want to recognize on your financials.
Okay.
But, I mean, the reality is, you go pick it up, I don't have any or very little. It's a lot of effort, it seems to me, for a little, I'm getting to the point where you're suggesting it may be material, but I don't think any of us probably have over $5,000 or $10,000 a piece worth of material sitting in our yard at the end of the year.
And that could be, but right now, nobody's looking at it and nobody's documenting it,
Nobody.
and that's the important thing.
But you're right, if you have to haul it to your yard, and then you have to haul it out, you've got a double expense of fuel. So where we can, we take it straight to the source.
That's great.
All right, that's good.
Okay. General ledger accounts not reconciled to underlying subsidiary accounts and records. The auditor is charged with maintaining the records of the county's financial transactions, including the general ledger. We notice some balance sheet accounts are not being reconciled to support subsidiary ledger and accounts. This includes accruals such as receivables and liabilities, as well as interfund transactions, including due to, from, and transfers. So support subsidiary ledgers and accounts should be prepared by the appropriate department, such as the elected official, purchasing agent, grant coordinator, and then audited and reconciled to the GL by the county auditor's office.
So what I wanted to make note of, or make sure you were aware of, we have several counties, the tax assessor, for example, is one. The sheriff's department is another that have bank accounts for their departments that are separate from the bank accounts that I look at on a daily basis that are in our financial accounting system. I've asked, since I came into office, why the county doesn't recognize or have those bank reconciliations and so forth in our system to look at, and I don't know, don't know what the answer is to that, but I knew eventually it was gonna come up on an audit, and so that is what she's relaying to us, is that I have to start recording. So while Dawn may do her monthly bank reconciliations for her bank accounts that she tracks over there in a completely different financial software system, she does send us her monthly reports, but now I have to enter those, not all the transactions, but a summary transaction in our records so that, because it's all county money, so that it's showing up on our financial statements. So I'll start doing that with any bank account that's not associated with what's already being tracked. And there's a list of them. It's, like I said, Dawn, the sheriff, Eva's trust accounts, same thing. So just
It makes sense.
more stuff, yeah.
Well, and that's actually you skipped ahead a little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That had to do with the transfers and the due to froms and the budget.
Oh, yeah.
And then the 2 entries that we had to reverse that belonged to the prior auditor that he didn't reverse. So you were talking about the agency funds, and this is important, really important this year because you have a new GASB out, and that GASB requires you to report all fiduciary funds, all agency funds on your financial statements, and they need to be recognized in a income statement form. So you need to recognize what goes to other, like you collect taxes for specific entities. The sheriff may have his seizure account, where those funds went, the commissary accounts, how those were spent. So although they've been kind of generically put on your financial statements in the back section, they're not extreme. I would say they're probably not as extremely accurate, and you have not recognized your income statement portion of it, just the balance sheet portion of it. And again, that new GASB requires that you show the income statement portion of it for all fiduciary type funds.
I'm sorry, I jumped the gun there.
That's okay. I'm glad you explained it. Allocation of ad valorem tax. This was, I don't want to say it was funny, but we did find a difference on your allocation of ad valorem tax based on the ordinance that were passed by you. They were correct on the sheets, but they were just allocated a little differently. So although, which created a prior period adjustment, and the prior period adjustment increased your debt service, but decreased your general fund, your road and bridge. And again, it was correct on the sheet. We're not sure what happened. Federal and state grant management, the county grant manager and county auditor's office were not able to provide an accurate schedule of expenditures of federal awards and schedule expenditures of state awards for the fiscal year. All grants should be tracked correctly in financials so that timing of accruals are taken into account. A complete and accurate CFA and CISA should be maintained and reconciled to the financials on a monthly basis. In addition, correct timing should be taken into account and accruals recorded correctly on the financial statements. We recommend that this report be prepared by the grants manager and then reviewed by the auditor's office. Something that kind of occurs in this grant that's a little odd, you look at the expenditures, you don't look at the revenues received. And so sometimes there can be timing with those, such as your CARES Act. You spent that money, but you didn't receive it until really February of this year. And then function of the county auditor's office, Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 115, Audit of County Finances, require that at least once each quarter the county auditor shall check the books and shall examine in detail the reports of the county tax assessor, the treasurer, and all of other offices. The county auditor's office is currently involved in preparing much of the financial document that they should be auditing. This means they are auditing their own work. In addition, they do not have time to audit as required as they are doing work in other areas. We recommend that the county carefully segregate the financial tasks to the appropriate department and personnel, and the department's personnel are properly trained on the financial tasks that are required of them. The county's auditor's office should audit the office of elected and appointed officials as required. In areas where it is determined that they are auditing their own work, changes should be made.
What do you mean by that, as far as some of the departments need a,
Well,
This is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Debbie.
no. Go ahead and answer, and I'll just add anything if,
So this is related to all of the work that has been done by my office as related to the treasurer's office.
Yep.
so now it'll be going back to the treasurer's office?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to, okay.
you're also required to audit each elected official's office on a quarterly basis. And so that needs to be done also. Can I explain the audit?
Yeah, well, I mean, what quarterly audit so is she just supposed to look like at my budget quarterly for my precinct? When you say each elected official, I'm wondering, is that everybody, or is it just ones that have to do with money?
Well, because you're in charge of your road and bridge, she should be monitoring some of that and doing surprise audits on specific items. It could be cash collection at one point, it could be inventory at another, it could be an examination of your capital leases, but there's, several areas in in all of your precincts that could be audited. In the sheriff's department, she should be looking at that commissary fund, were they spent appropriately? The forfeiture fund, or did he abide by state and federal laws, depending on what forfeiture type it is? Just general things like, well, not general things, but those things. County court clerk, and the district court have specific funds, hot check funds, that those need to be monitored. So there's a variety of different funds and activities in each of those areas that should be audited.
You weren't here, so that's right. So last year, I would report to the court. I went in and did an audit of the sheriff's department and the commissary accounts, and if bank recs matched up, I will do like surprise cash counts and go to whatever elected official carries cash, and I could go into Eva's office at any time, stop everything. I'm gonna do a cash drawer count, and Dawn's office has been done as well. The treasurer's office, when I go do the safe audit. So it's things like that should be done. What the code specifically speaks to the treasurer's office and the tax collector, anybody who actually has money.
And that's all I have. I had already mentioned that you didn't comply with the Public Investment Funds Act. Again, annually approve your investment policy. Your quarterly investment should be according to the public, or reported to commissioners, and it should comply with the presentation and the requirements that the Public Investment Acts Fund requires.
Yeah, and
So,
just so that the court is aware, Christina and I will be attending the Investment Academy at the end of this month. Our previous treasurer was named as the investment officer for Wilson County, which now will be Christina. And so that we can get the reporting done, and because the last investment report that was brought to you guys or dated was 2019. So there was not one done last year. So we'll try to get that on the agenda as soon as possible, as soon as we can wrap our brain around it. So, and then the other thing I did want to point out to you, back on page 4 regarding the fixed assets tracking, something else for you to keep in mind is I will be bringing a recommendation to the court at some point for us to establish a threshold for fixed asset purchases, whatever dollar amount you deem that's. Most counties go anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 for any one purchase. Our new financial software does have the ability to track fixed assets. So once the court decides on what the minimum threshold is, we'll be able to plug that information into our system and truly have accurate inventory, or accurate records of our fixed assets with the depreciation values, et cetera. So that's not just for your equipment at the precincts, but countywide, anything purchased at a minimum value.
Okay, so you've got an asset that's worth $10,000 now and it depreciates down below the threshold. Does it come off?
I don't think it,
It doesn't?
Not unless you sell it or it's disposed of.
Okay, it's just whatever you paid for it or whatever it was initially worth, even though it depreciates down, then, okay.
That's really important also for, when you go out for bonds. You're not showing, they're relying on what we have in your audit. If it's not materially correct, right now you have a very strong net position right now. We want to make sure those are correct.
Must be yours.
Well, that program that you have, will it depreciate, or you'll have to do it yourselves, depreciate those
it
items?
has different, no, it will depreciate it for us. We just have to set the parameters.
Okay, because say Commissioner File buys a maintainer and keeps it 10 years, and he buys it at $180,000, and it's worth $10,000, and he decides to trade it in.
Yeah, I haven't played around with it as much, but it's a module that's live and working on FI right now. So we're looking forward to and anxious to start working in that area, so.
Does it depreciate based on use too?
I don't know, I haven't played around with it yet, so.
And we have the Excel that she can possibly use.
To upload the, yeah. And as of this morning, so the audit becomes final once our prior year or adjustment journal entries are completed. So I just got the email from Kristen that we were able to complete that this morning. So those should all be recorded as of this morning. So when I go downstairs, I'll go look. But yes, and your approval of it.
Thank you, Debbie, appreciate it.
I would like to just make a comment. I know this was Debbie and Armstrong Vaughn and Associates' first time at Wilson County, but they have been so helpful and very well-versed in county government, which was, last year it was kind of mixed because we had, you guys had already approved a new outside firm to come in, and it was my first year as well. And it was their first year doing a county. And so we were kind of like going at it blind and trying to come up, and it was and that group did amazing work. I have just learned to appreciate it even more, accounting through Debbie's group, just because ask her, I probably called her 10 times on Friday on questions related to making sure that I'm doing things correctly in the system, and having that support. So I really appreciate you, Debbie, and Mike, and Jesus, everybody who came out and patiently worked with us to get through this audit, so.
Brenda, can we still ask questions, or, I mean, I don't know what the terms of their contract is, so, are we still able to ask?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it'll be coming, I mean, we're 6 months into it, so we'll be coming right around full circle come September 30th to start all over again, so. But there was just a delay because of COVID and nothing being opened and trying to get numbers and stuff, so. Back on track.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving right along to agenda item number 11, Richard L. Jackson County Judge, Michelle Mora, Grants Manager. I'm going to read all of 11A. Okay. 11A, discuss and ratify the contract amendments for the TCEQ and ACOG Wilson County Collection Facility Expansion Project. A1, reprogramming of $7,171 to construct a concrete slab and purchase an air compressor to prepare tires for collection. A2, amending the total grant award to increase award to $75,711, with a reduction in the county's cash match to $9,661.50. 11A3, extending the full ILA contract and for the full execution for final spending and a period of work performance from a term of September 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, to a new term of September 1, 2020 to July 15th, 2021. Michelle?
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. We've kind of discussed these contract amendments in the past couple of court hearings, so this is the actual finality of it. The judge was presented with the two amendments, and I'm sorry I put them in as three, but there are two amendments to the contract. The first amendment includes the reprogramming of what we did not spend in contract services for the actual expansion of the project, which came to a total of $7,171. That reprogramming went to and was approved by TCEQ for the construction of a concrete slab and the purchase of an air compressor to remove the tire rims on the tires to prepare them for collection. Along with that reprogramming, in the same amendment, ACOG granted us an additional, what is that, 56, almost $18,000, $18,796, I believe. So the actual contract amount, grant award amount, will go up to $75,711. This is grant money that we do not pay back. I did provide the contract to Brenda because she'll have to definitely amend the budget for that purpose, because we will receive those monies upon delivery of the invoices and requests for reimbursement, which is already in the works. So, and then the last part of that is that because we're getting extra money for the actual grant award, we're reducing our cash match. Our original cash match in the original contract was $28,457.50. And we're reducing that to $9,661.50.
That's pretty good.
And we still stand to possibly receive more money, but it'll be closer to the end of the contract period.
Do we have to have construction completed by July the
15th?
15th?
Yes, sir.
So
That's also, that is in the second amendment, which I gave it to Brenda as well as the county clerk. Was due to the rain. We were having some few weeks back, I was concerned. I had mentioned to the commissioner that, if we get any more rain events, we may not be able to get out there and construct that concrete slab right away. So rather than come back to the court in 2 weeks and ask for that extension, I thought I would just try to take care of it at the same time. So that's what I'm asking is you to ratify those two amendments for the TCEQ, ACOG, Wilson County
But if we're
Collections.
still in progress or in the work of working on this building or shed or whatever it is,
I'm sorry?
if we don't get it completed by the 15th, what's going to happen?
That's a concrete slab, right? Are we doing the shed?
No, just.
Should it be a slab?
The
Just a
slab
slab.
and buying the air compressor.
By the
Okay.
air compressor.
So it's not going to have anything on top of it?
Yes, it will have the
But
shed
that's
here
not part of
now
the
is gonna
that's not
be-
part of this contract.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna put it back on top of the slab itself.
How big a slab?
24 by 24.
But yeah,
Okay,
Well, that shouldn't be too complicated.
no, it's starting tomorrow.
okay.
We're good.
Good deal.
The shed we had there, we're gonna put it back on the slab and mount it down to the slab. It was just sitting on dirt.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay, need a motion.
I'll make a motion, Judge, that we approve the reprogramming of $7,171 to contract, the concrete slab and purchase the air compressor.
I'll second it.
Okay, is that going to take care of all this, or can we do them all at one time?
Not with the way Commissioner worded it.
How does it need to be worded?
So So then we need, I guess you could say, approve the ratification of both contract amendments for the TCEQ, ACOG, Wilson County.
There's two different ones. You got TCEQ and ACOG.
Okay. You got that, Eva?
Yes, I got
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Fowle,
I did it.
second by Commissioner Wiley. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that took care of that. 11B, discuss and accept the Tex VEMP, VEMP, grant contract 582-21-24044-VW for Precinct 2 in the amount of $126,329 to purchase a new truck tractor.
This is a new contract of the original 7 or 8 vehicles, I believe. Commissioner Fowle submitted 3 vehicles to the Tex VEMP grant opportunity. One of the trucks was declined in the first cut due to classification. The truck was a Class 8. The other previous trucks were Class 7 vehicles. That's all, you all know, that's gross vehicle weight rating. So I asked the question if I could just resubmit and change the classification, and they said, yep. So that's exactly what I did back in October. And we just got the contract last week. So that's what you are accepting, is the 3rd vehicle for Commissioner Fowle.
I'll make a motion, Judge, that we approve the Tech Bank grant contract for $126,329.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fowle, second by Commissioner Perdola, that we accept the contract 582-21-24044-VW. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Find more money?
One of those goes to me and one of them to Eva, Judge.
That's right.
And here's one. That one goes to Eva?
Yes.
Wish I could do that at home.
Oh,
Okay, agenda item number 12, Paul Fall, Commissioner Precinct 2, Christina Moots, County Treasurer. 12A, discuss and take action on moving the payroll administrator position back under the treasurer's office and renaming to assistant treasurer. You have any comments?
Just that, like you had said earlier, moving all the operations back to the treasurer's office, and that would be a payroll administration position.
I'll make that motion, Judge, that we move
Motion by Commissioner Fall,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Wiley, that we move the
payroll.
payroll administrator position back under the treasurer's office. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed. Okay, 12B, discuss and take action on approving bond for Gabrielle Landrum, Assistant Treasurer.
Make a motion to approve the bond for Gabrielle Landrum, Assistant
Motion by
Treasurer.
Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Perdola, that we approve the bond of Gabrielle Landrum, our new Assistant Treasurer. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
No, just a comment, Christina, we'll need to go update your bond because yours is currently at the assistant treasurer, so yours needs to be updated as well. Yeah, it doesn't need to be on the, I don't know, is that something that needs to be approved by the court?
Probably.
Yes, if it's changing.
Yeah.
Is the amount of her bond?
Yes. What happens is whenever he changes your bond, then you bring it to Commissioner's Court for their approval. Yeah.
Is the bond the same amount?
No.
No, she can
Okay.
change it.
You're worth more now?
I guess so.
Okay.
I'm here.
Wouldn't take much.
Remember that, who said it? Okay, whenever you get it, put it on the, get to Eva, and put it on the agenda, we'll approve
I
that.
meant to tell her that last week, and then we were just supposed to go Tuesday.
And then I thought I told you.
The dollar amount I don't know, we'll have to go back and look and see what it was for the treasurer. I know with the assistant what yours currently is, as it was as an assistant treasurer. I don't know if the dollar amount, was greater on the treasurer's side, so we'll confirm.
Okay, agenda item 13, Leanne Hosek, EMC 13A utility permit. 13A1 permit number, how many of these can I read? I think we can do all of that. Permit number 642, SS Water Supply Corporation, Precinct 4, County Road 305, review and approve. 13A2, permit number 643, SS Water Supply Corporation, Precinct 4, County Road 305, review and approve. And 13A3, permit number 644, Sutherland Springs Water Supply Corporation, Precinct 4, County Road 305, review and approve. Are they gonna put 3 different bores, or is it?
Well, there'll be 3 places where they screw up my road, I can tell you that.
They don't mind.
No, they don't mind at all.
One of them's County Road 305, but it's a dead end, so don't worry, there's only a few people that can live back there.
It's true.
Where's this other one? Did it?
All 305,
They're all 305?
yes.
Who's the one, are they building new houses out there, or what?
I don't know what they're doing out there. Proposed 4-inch bore. All right, well, I make a motion, we approve it, Judge.
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Morton, we approve all 3 permits. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've got the permits.
Sign, all right.
Okay. 13B, non-starter plants and variances, B1, 600 County Road, 483, Precinct 4, Camino Soco, S-O-C-C-O, LLC, discuss and take action.
This is just outside of Nixon.
Okay, the property owner owns 20.17 acres off of County Road 483, and he is subdividing into 2 5.07 acre tracts. Or one is 5.07, one is 5.06.
It met all of our requirements.
It came before the committee, was given a favorable recommendation. These tracts have access to City of Nixon water.
I make a motion, we approve them.
Second, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Wiley, second by Commissioner Fowle. Who's the landowner by any chance?
Sangerhausen
Okay.
with Camino Saco LLC.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just outside of Pandora.
Is
Nixon.
it Rancho Road?
483, that's the road that leaves in Nixon and goes,
Yep. That's what we call the Weiner Road.
Oh, I thought that was the one right there in Pandora.
No. No. It comes out in Karnes County.
okay, 13C, subdivision, Cibolo Ridge, Unit 3. C1, discuss and take action on acceptance of dedication of conveyance of roads.
Okay, the roads have been constructed, they have been inspected. There were a few issues, I think, that they needed to address, and the commissioner was, had
I have been out there and
subsequently
inspected
inspected
and,
them and has signed off on.
yes, I contacted the county engineer and let him know that all of the deficiencies, it mostly was sand washed in culverts from all these big rains that we've recently had. And they've got all of that taken care of. So
So we're at the point to accept the roads.
I make a motion that we accept the roads in the Cibolo Ridge subdivision, Unit 3.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Fardola, second by Commissioner Wiley, we accept the roads in Cibolo Ridge. Is there any
Unit
more?
3.
Unit 3. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just what I need, more roads to take care of.
You got them.
I know all y'all saw that email from Jim Allison or Allison Bass, about the county roads. Paul's been discussing that a bunch. Okay, moving to agenda item 14, Eva S. Martinez, County Clerk, minutes. Did you make all the changes I asked for?
Yes, sir.
I reviewed them earlier, Judge. I make a motion, we approve them.
Motion by Commissioner Wiley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Perdola. We approve the minutes. Is there any discussion, addition, corrections, questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Every time I leave here, I leave with a lot more than I came with.
Okay, agenda item number 15, Christina Moon, County Treasurer, Financial Report.
At this moment, I do not have a final statement or anything to report on for you, hopefully next Commissioner's Court or next month. But I am balancing, really hard at work balancing, getting everything tied up where everything was left off. So we'll have something to you, I just don't have a report right now.
Good luck.
You got a lot of work to do over there, young lady.
I'm getting it done. Got
I know
a
you.
group of ladies, and we're gonna tackle it, so it's working out so far.
Good.
Good. Okay, agenda item 16, Jalen T. Boterford, Human Resource General Specialist, payroll and personnel changes.
I can't get those out to you guys. This one is quite
You wanna read 'em?
lengthy. No. The sheriff continues to keep me busy on his end. No line item changes, fairly simple.
Sheriff, you still shorthanded or you full?
That should fill me up as of this current time. Of course, the second page, I go backwards at the jail.
It's always been that way.
This is just information, correct?
It is.
Okay, Michelle Overstreet's taking Mike's place.
Yes, sir.
I want to chat with you for a second before you leave. Quick second.
The good thing is she's got a lot of experience, or a fair amount of experience too, so.
Michelle.
Okay, on Gabby's deal, there's not a salary change or anything?
She, well, yes, and I should have mentioned that. She, and I don't think we've actually discussed this yet because we just put her in on Friday, will be taking what you left off at.
Okay.
So it still doesn't change anything as far as, from what she was making.
As far as it's
from
making
what
Brenda
she-
happy, but there is a change.
Yes,
on her.
yes.
What? What did you say?
We didn't make you work.
There's really not a change in the
Oh,
line items or anything
No.
like that,
No.
but there is a change in personnel.
Correct.
I don't know where she came from, Bear County. But she lives somewhere in the county.
Stockdale, I believe.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now agenda item number 17, Brenda Trevino, County Auditor. Financial report and, bills. We have a financial report?
yeah, it's sitting in front of you right there in that.
We've already had that.
I've got $267,198.30. In bills this go around.
Did you want to go over that financial report again, Judge?
Yes. Brenda, could you?
I probably have it memorized by now.
Just out of curiosity, on the tax assessor deal, it says just Citibank account, then June statement, it's got money off of it, and then it indicates that an invoice that has multiple department entries. What were these?
So that's like every department, so any department that has the Citibank P card. So we make one payment from the department, but then it gets broken down into each of the line items for whatever charges they are. What page are you?
We don't know
looking
what
at?
charges they are.
What page are
Each
you,
individual one. Page 3, excuse me.
page 3?
Yeah, down toward the bottom, I think.
It doesn't itemize what those payments were for, other than they came out.
So that's all credit card charges?
And it's, same thing up at the county attorney's office, certain
All of the
things.
credit card charges just show Citibank, they don't show what it's for.
Right, they're coded individually.
But when I turn mine in on my Citibank, I turn in an invoice.
I do too.
No, they all do, it's just how it's reported, how it's showed on here. If you look up at, let's see, where's another one? County attorney is the same way. Y'all's is probably the same way too.
So the expenses are justified.
Yeah, so if you go to like precinct 4, Citibank, June statement, that's how much we paid directly to Citibank, and then that $10,000 is divvied up in the individual line items. But we have to be able to show the.
Did you say precinct 4, $10,000?
I'm sorry, $33.50.
That's more like it.
10,000 was Aragon asphalt. Yeah, sorry about that.
That'll be deducted from your.
You okay, Larry?
County attorney,
Fan him a little bit here.
county attorney, there's a bunch of them
gasping
up
for
here.
air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
None of 'em are
I'll have to
$400.
look and see, how they were shown last month. I'm pretty sure this is the way that it's always been, but I can double check.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
I still have questions, so that's okay.
You can ask questions.
That was just my deal, on a credit card, if we don't have something backing it up.
But we do, it's just
do.
not
Can it
showing
be
on
put
this.
It's not
here?
on here because they
Can it
don't
be put on here?
manually enter all of that, all of those receipts and everything. They have them in a file somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, her department's
Okay.
made it clear, if you don't have a receipt, you pay for it.
Yeah.
At least that's what
Yeah,
they
that's
tell
what-
me.
Okay, I was just getting it, if we can have what it is, because we've always had it.
So we get, let's say you give us 5 receipts that you use your credit card on. One of them's for office supplies, one of them's for conferences, one of them, those individual charges get allocated to the correct line item. But the one payment that we have to make to Citibank is a separate line item where we enter the payment itself. Let's say it's $3,000 to Citibank for Judge's credit card, is entered in here as one line item payment for the credit card, but the expenses are allocated correctly in the
Okay, I
system.
understand that, but I just want to know what the expenses were.
Yeah, so we'd have to give you the backup for, and pull all the copies of the receipts for it.
Okay, we don't have a way to do that?
Like you want me to bring you the copies of the?
I'm not bringing it can't just be, instead of having that this money was taken out,
Is there,
this money was taken out for whatever purpose it was taken out for.
is there a breakout report, like what you're saying got divvied up to the other correct line items for office supplies or fuel or whatever?
Yeah.
Is there another breakout report that would,
I'm sure there is, yeah.
that would,
Like
so
mine,
you don't have to provide those
I can
receipts?
tell you what, let's see, I can tell you what they were, but, because I know what they are, but this doesn't say on here. Like the 355 was from a hotel. I can't tell you what the 190 was, though. Or the 119. Oh, the 190 was probably, no, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I tell you, like on mine, $1,000 was repair on one of our trucks. And the 81, I don't remember.
I don't know, but I'll find out, Judge.
Okay, if it's some way we can put it in there where we can get that.
See the actual
Because it was either-
expenses.
Okay, now go ahead, Gary.
I'll remake my motion. I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner Pardola, that we approve the bills. Is there any more questions or additions, deletions, deductions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we have the bills. Okay, so this is the one we were here for. Let's wait 12 more seconds.
The hanging's at high noon, right?
At noon, we're adjourned.
$100 for the ECM and 2 trips for
Yes, I'm good with that. Okay, I'll stop by after lunch sometime.
Creek mechanic at a point,
Kathy, did you ever work up that local agreement?
That one agreement,
Local agreement between us?
I'm still working on it.